And therefore, the representatives will have to close the second act of Méditerranée of the Future and to set the steps for the future, which is hoped for and certainly feasible. And therefore, for the official closing of this second act, please welcome Mr. Renaud Muselier, President of the Provence-Alpes-Côte as a region, European Member of Parliament, and Mr. Jean-Yves Le Drian, Minister of European Foreign Affairs, who is joining us now from Sicily, where he was, in fact, dealing with the Mediterranean dossiers, and Mr. Nasser Kamel, Secretary General of the Union for the Mediterranean. So we are waiting for your seats, gentlemen. Then you will have the stage. You heard the youth has expectations, high expectations. It has a very clear-cut idea of what should be done or proposed in the middle of the chairs. It's not the ideal position, let's face it.
Je voudrais, si vous me permettez ce bref intermède, en profiter pour remercier toutes celles et ceux qui ont rendu cet événement possible. À chaque fois, tout réinstallé. Il y a également les traducteurs qui...
So, interpreters are here and the technicians who are doing their work. So, Mr. President, you have the floor. Sorry, we had a little problem to know if there would be 2 chairs or 3 chairs. So I'm standing up anyway, so. And you're seated. Mr. the President of the Republic of Albania, thank you for being here. It's always an honor and a pleasure to welcome you here in Marseille. We had a discussion with the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Europe, Mr. Jean-Luc Le Drian. You had discussions. Mr. Le Drian is a man of honor, man of word, and I want to thank him for his presence today here. He did open the Act 1 Mission of the Future. And today, well, he will close this project. It's not a huge international summit. He's a man of international action. He advocates for French foreign policy in the world. It's a key role. I'm very honored and proud that you should be the representative and the speaker for our country. We need you, your wisdom, your knowledge, and your friendship that you've always expressed. And it is rare in political life, so thank you very much. I do, and I also appreciate what you do for our local authority. Mr. the Secretary General, Mr. Nasser, this is your home, and we spent 2 days together, and it shows that we are together in a strategy that will make it possible to achieve the development we all seek in our beautiful region. Ladies and gentlemen, ministers, thank you for your presence and the time you spent here. But I think it was the most interesting project. I want to thank all the various ambassadors present here, all the governors, representatives of regions and of delegations and countries, because 33 delegations are here. I want to welcome the representative from the World Bank, members of Parliament from the European Basin, and the people of Marseille who are here tonight. So we, the Marseillais people, say to you, welcome. Just for reference, Marseille is one of the oldest cities of this part of the world with 2,600 years of history, but it has a specific position in the heart of the French and in the life of Mediterranean people. It is the capital of a religion which is turned to the sea, with large metropoles like Toulon and Nice, along our 1,000 kilometers of coast. When you grow up in the heart of the city of Marseille, when you live there, and then you grow in contact with these men and women who come from all over the world, when we learn with the thousands of other colors and fragrance of that city. We have to be sensitive to this sea which feeds us, and Mediterranean Sea is our DNA, and our fate are common, the fate of all and the fate of each and every one. So we talk about the fate of men and women who live in the Mediterranean, close to so far of the citizens of the Mediterranean. So on the shore of the Mediterranean, we have this heritage where the concept was Greek, law was Roman, harmony was Italian, rebellion who came from Catalan, energy was Egyptian, and freedom was French. This is why I'm a president of a region, fully European because I'm for peace, fundamentally French because I'm a patriot, and definitely Provence-Alpes and Azurean because I'm from the Mediterranean. So therefore, we want to renew this heritage. We want to restore our common fight. We want to make this sea a lake of peace because it is now today the theater of too many disasters between Islamists and militaries, and all the rest. And what we do today with you in the region, where we group the intelligence of the Mediterranean Sea. I don't want that in the Mediterranean some people swim where other people drown, as if it was an acceptable thing. Europe, France, our region, our cities, have cultural, geographic, economic links with the other cities of the Med region, but that's not the point. The point is our shared ambition to transmit to the future generation a world where they can grow up with their own children. This is why I place this there under the sign of youth and innovation. We've wrote all the names, but we don't have the, I listen from the top there, the examples of conviction and certainty in the future, quest for knowledge and desire for future. You've delivered a great message of hope. Mission of the future is youth, this alliance of certainty, hope, of fears and hope, but also this thirst for life. Now, this time for commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the First World War. Well, let's remember the sacrifice of the soldiers. On the Allied side, most of the soldiers were under 30. Following the armistice, on a world in ruin, this youth was convinced that they were living in an absurd world where the man was alone. Yet they were able to get up again. So 20 years later, the generation of resistance and the camp survivors wanted to succeed where their fathers and grandfathers failed. And from this lost innocence came economic prosperity, decolonization, European peace. Youth is invincible if it so wishes. And therefore, this should make it possible to enlighten the present. Youth is so precious, and it warns us about the changes of the world. Sometimes it is at the origin thereof. When youth can no longer support injustice, the suffering of the people, well, sometimes it will overthrow everything. The ambition of Mission of the Future is to let the youth express its talents, envies, doubts, angers. Youth was at the heart of the work of my friend who left years ago, Antoine Sphere. We paid him a tribute this morning. I know, dear Jean-Yves, that Antoine was a key person for you, and I want to say something about him, and I'm sure you will share the words. In the high complexity of the Mediterranean world, Antoine Sphere made it possible to better understand the meaning of events. He had this vision and the height of view. When everything seemed blurry, he would clarify, give the share of light to obscurity. He spent his life passing on to giving weapons to our children so that they could deal with the world. So the 21st century will be different from the past. Under your authority, Mr. Minister, we all have assets, geographical, cultural, economic assets to be at the forefront of regional cooperation. Thanks to your action, Mr. Minister, France is the helmman of a new policy, not only to encourage and make sure that our companies will succeed in new markets, but also to favor their exports. Diplomacy is a competence of the state, and it will remain so. We're all proud of our flags, of our languages, of our countries, of our roots, of our histories, of our national anthems, and of our territories. So we are constantly in touch with our citizens, and we have the same problems when it comes to sustainable management and I know, Mr. President of the region, I know that you understand the work of this. So our collectivities have a role to play. They make it possible to facilitate dialogue where sometimes it seemed impossible. Our event today is the example. This second edition confirms the strategy we've established together. More than 1,000 people, 33 delegations. We were numerous today. We're numerous in Marseille because we meet a strong need from the players of the Med Basin. Diplomacy is a niche question of women and men, and the Provence-Alpes-Côte region is the entry door or a new diplomacy to recreate the flourishing trade of Mediterranean. Our collectivities, our local authorities can help make small steps to help countries. So with the trust we give to the Voice of France in the Mediterranean Basin on this topic, and as many others, I do believe in decentralization. Our territories are full of talent and solutions, and we have to dialogue within the framework of strategy defined by the state. So we started this last year, and we were advancing on all your dossiers, we addressed 4 points last year. The need to define the second phase of the Union for the Mediterranean. This is the project of Nasser Kamel, the new Secretary General. And our meeting today, the three of us, showed that, Jean-Yves, your call has been heard. Third, the will to extend the 5+5 format to greater ports. It's you, the President of the Republic, and 24th of June next year, there will be the Summit of the Two Shores, which will be a new format. Third, the organization of major forum in Marseille, and this meeting takes place every year in the regional capital. Fourth, the advent of a major university network around Project Erasmus for all. The Prince of the ex-Marseille University explained to us on a request from the European Union, well, they're initiating a large Mediterranean university network, meeting the call for project of the European Commission for validation in February. And as European Member of Parliament, provide full contribution. It is a key project to develop access to the internet in all Mediterranean countries, and that was mentioned by our Tunisian minister. Ladies and gentlemen, to be credible, we have to be exemplary. In 2017, we had selected the topic of sustainable development. We spent more than 20% of our budget to the regional plan. This year, we did 20% of the budget, 400 million euro, by the way. This year, we made youth and innovation the theme. So, therefore, our region spends more than 700 million euros this year for youth. Two key values guide us: freedom, liberty, responsibility. And autonomy, in my spirit, is the ability for each and everyone to make their own choices and to take them. It's the cement of youth. Intellectual construction, determination to be free, independent, powerful, strong. And to do so, we do invest in high schools for security, but to generalize broadband. And we are opening a new suspend by installing sun power systems in all buildings. We support 700 young youth per year to give them diplomas and to have access to culture and to receive health care, and we promote mobility. Finally, we finance the civic service of more than 100 young people in the region, and that's what we do. But, Mr. Minister, we are impatient to discover the new roadmap that you are going to discover, to tell us. On my side, I'd like to give you some action in favor of youth.
So we have a regional parliament of youth, and we created this parliament in the Mediterranean to bring together the young people from all the countries with whom we have cooperation. And we come together each year upon the occasion of the Mediterranean of the Future. This would be an instance of dialogue and exchange between young people from all shores of the Mediterranean. Moreover, with our partners of the French Development Agency, the World Bank, and the Annalyn Foundation, the Union for the Mediterranean, and all of the others, we will also be launching a major call for Euro-Mediterranean projects to support innovative initiatives in favor of youth. We have also integrated the network of startups in the Mediterranean, presided by the former Minister of Tunisia, who spoke earlier on. Victor Hugo hoped that we should always desire more than we should accomplish. What I wish to our young generation, and to us also, because we are young. I feel young. Well, I'm not young anymore, actually, but so these young generations who we need to maintain the desire to exceed themselves, the will to make something strong and bold of their existence. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a message of hope I wish to tend to you this afternoon. Our policy in favor of our youth is vital for our Mediterranean basin. Minister, you occupy with clairvoyance and good sense, common sense, the business of the world. Others are trying to relaunch the European construction, others to reform France. With you, we are going to occupy our future in the Mediterranean. And I wish a world where the light of reason and culture are always stronger than obscurantism. At the eve of one's life, you can regret our mistakes and we pay for our faults. But if we don't allow our children to live in a sustainable world, it will be an unpardonable fault. And I could never forgive myself for it. And this is why I've decided to engage the region in this magnificent project with my majority. And I thank you for this. Minister, the floor is yours. General Secretary, if you will, the floor is yours. Minister, you are the last because you have the final word and the most important word. Throughout today, we have been speaking only of your speech that will shed some light with regard to the general orientation of the major initiative of the President of France on the summit of the two shores, or whatever the name of the summit that will be held in Marseille on the 24th of June. Dear friend, Renaud Muselier, my friend for the past 15 years, and President of the region Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur, President of Albania, Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I am very happy to have participated in this conference that marks the second act of the Mediterranean vocation of the city of Marseille. As General Secretary for the Union for the Mediterranean, I can but congratulate the region Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur for this initiative that marks the ambition of Marseille to renew the ties with its past and to create a promising future for its youth, which are the symbol of hope and commitment. Earlier on this morning, I quoted the Egyptian poet who became a Marseille citizen, Joseph Azou. He said that Marseille is, by the ascendance of poetic power, transport Europe to the desert of Africa. And it is this vocation that Joseph was speaking of, which makes Marseille a city of passage, a bridge that is confirmed today through you, dear friend, dear President of the region. The Union for the Mediterranean has the mission of reinforcing cooperation and dialogue in the Mediterranean to help for the development of initiatives and concrete projects within three strategic priorities: human development, stability, and integration. The Union for the Mediterranean aims for a fundamental objective, which is the reinforcement of regional integration in a region which, unfortunately, we must acknowledge is very little integrated. It adopts its own methodology that encourages the organization of platforms for dialogue, projects at the regional level, and high-level political meetings. Today, the Union for the Mediterranean represents more than 50 accredited projects of a value of 5 billion euros, 300 forums of experts and ministerial meetings, which bring together more than 30,000 stakeholders of the region since its creation in 2010. The idea behind the founding of the UPM means that the challenges require regional responses. Within this framework, the Mediterranean youth play a key role. It is in this direction that the UPM was forged around 6 priority and strategic fields, whose objective is to meet the expectations of the youth and its needs. These domains are the development of companies, creation of jobs, higher education and research, gender equality, water, the environment, sustainable development, a means of transport and urban centres, and finally, the action for the climate. All of these objectives contribute to the promotion of a solidarity within the Mediterranean that carries hope for the future of its youth. The action of the UPM is guided by the idea that youth is the main driving force of change for us as a society. Youth is an essential source of creativity and innovation when an favorable environment allows it to engage in favor of the development of its country. This is why the giving responsibility and allowing young people and women to become autonomous is in the heart of the strategy of the UPM. In the past 3 years, we've been developing this in close collaboration with its members, amongst which France, and with the participation of key stakeholders working within the region. In particular, the local authorities, which play a key role in this field. Ladies and gentlemen, if the UPM today grants such importance to the youth, it is because 60% of the Euro-Mediterranean population is under the age of 30 years old, and the number of young people under the age of 15 should increase by more than 18% by 2020, so in 2 years' time. The UPM is aware of this reality and is working to provide this youth with the place it deserves. This youth is called more than ever to contribute actively to the consolidation of a Mediterranean that is dreamt and hoped for by our people, a Mediterranean of peace, progress, and solidarity. In the image of youth, the object of our meeting here today, the UPM has the vocation of growing and developing. As I've had the opportunity of mentioning before the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Barcelona, the UPM is still young, and yet it has a story to tell. History that is developing, and a story which is developing and promises to be very rich. And I think it deserves to be disseminated, celebrated, and reproduced at a larger scale. France, this European country, and Mediterranean country also committed to the promotion of the Mediterranean of peoples and ideas, was a driving force behind the launch of the Union for the Mediterranean 10 years ago. The President of France, Macron, has reconfirmed the Mediterranean ambition of France by announcing the organization of a summit on the Mediterranean, a summit that Marseille will be hosting on the 24th of June. Excellence, today, we can but be aligned with the French initiative. This should allow the UPM to draw upon its networks, its expertise, and so that they are able to fully participate in the success of this major event. I understand the ambition of President Macron, who has called to come back to a Mediterranean policy and as a recommitment of France in favor of the objectives of the UPM, meaning the construction of a Mediterranean that is close to its citizens and its youth, which is apt to encourage the creation of innovative projects in the field of climate, energy, environment, economy, young people, and others. I, indeed, are deeply convinced that the way of collectively reinforcing our Mediterranean policy consists in bringing together our means and expertise to co-construct together, hand in hand, new dynamics of the Mediterranean. Ladies and gentlemen, the holding of the Mediterranean of the Future conference today and yesterday presents a unique opportunity that allows us to forge synergy for cooperation in the field that occupies us, that of youth and innovation. I congratulate myself that the city of Marseille is playing the role of catalyzer of our Mediterranean ambitions in France and beyond. This role of a place of meeting, of a discussion, the role of project incubators, these are the roles of both cities of both shores of the Mediterranean will allow the UPM to continue to exercise its role of Euro-Mediterranean organization by excellence in the service of the states and of its population, their populations, and above all, of its youth. Thank you for your attention. Minister, I waited for you to come to commit the protocolary mistake. I apologize. It's over. The floor is yours. I don't consider that to be an uncanny action. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that I am in a city that is in mourning, and before beginning my speech, I would like to share with you my empathy with regard to the families of the deceased and my solidarity with regard to the population of Marseille who have been injured by what has just happened. President of the Republic of Albania, General Secretary of the Union for the Mediterranean, my dear Nasser, ladies and gentlemen, the ministers, President of the region, dear Renaud Muselier, ladies and gentlemen, the elected representatives, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to come back here. Nevertheless, despite the very dark period you're going through. For me, it's always a pleasure to come to Marseille. And I must say that, Renaud Muselier, because I think it's true that the city of France, beyond Brittany, of course, where I've come the most since I have been president. It's Renaud Muselier who's made a mistake. So it's been Minister of Foreign Affairs. It's a sign of friendship with regard to Renaud. Sometimes we might find this relationship quite funny because we have very different backgrounds. Although, as my lapsus does reveal, we do hold the same convictions as to the importance and stakes of the region. But with Renaud Muselier, we have a trustful relationship that has been forged along our meetings and common actions, and which continues today. That is also politics. It means maintaining trustful and respectful relationships. So I'm very happy to be with him by his side today. And I would like to thank you, Renaud, for your very warm welcome, for the homage that you have paid to me. And I'm absolutely convinced that mutual trust and confidence will continue in new common adventures, in particular that I have come to write with you today. The Mediterranean, what strikes me in what I hear about the Mediterranean every time I come to Marseille, and in particular on behalf of the president of the region, is that each time he talks of history, as if we could do nothing here without going back to the roots. It'd be this navigation, but also all of the events that have happened around the Mediterranean. It's this history that links us together. And to go back over this history means following the thread of our common destiny, this Ariane thread, which today must and still guide us for the Mediterranean. And those who love the Mediterranean know this. Our sea, I can make it mine even though I am on the side of the ocean. Our sea deserves better than hate. It deserves better than mistrust, than broken dreams, than youthful deaths. On the thread of our history and our common destiny is also means finding once again for the Mediterranean a vision and an ambition that we may share. And it is within this spirit, President, that you launched just a year ago. I was there. I opened this meeting. You launched the idea of a meeting on the Mediterranean of the future. This time I'm coming to draw the conclusions. And the idea has forged its way. And today it is the second act of these meetings that is coming to an end, dedicated to youth and innovation. To speak of change, the employability of young people, entrepreneurial, the city of the future means inventing the Mediterranean of the future. And it is the Mediterranean, up to the Mediterranean youth to fashion our common destiny and to continue the thread of this destiny. I therefore wish to be present with you today to pay homage to these initiatives, to show the strength that this represents, and to say to you also that it is this ambitious and practical spirit that has guided you that will inspire soon, next year, the summit of the two shores of the Mediterranean, Western Mediterranean. And the President of France announced that it would be held at the end of last summer when he went to Tunis. It will be a very big event, and I wish now to sketch the few points that we can, around which we can build the organization. And General Secretary, Mr. Nasser, you will be a partner in this adventure, but also, of course, the stakeholders of Marseille, and in particular the region. This will take place in the Palace of the Pharaoh, which is made available to us by the city of Marseille. And it will really be the extension of the Mediterranean of the future, but within another dimension. It will not be a summit in the classical sense, but President of France and the heads of state and the government and 10 countries of the 5+5 dialogue, the 5 countries of the south and the north of the Mediterranean will be present, and Portugal, Italy, through Spain, France, Malta, and those of the southern shore, Mauritania to Libya. But the originality of this summit, of a new kind, resides in that it will be the same atmosphere as that which I saw earlier on at the end of the Forum of the Mediterranean of the Future, meaning that our leaders will be led to meet qualified personalities from the civil society of each of our countries, men and women belonging to this new generation, who, as you did earlier on, are setting down the basis of innovation, company managers, artists, members of NGOs, stakeholders of local authorities. All of the living forces of the Mediterranean will be present here in Marseille. And it is thanks to this diversity of points of views, of skills, that what I always call the summit of the two shores will allow us to put the spotlight on what joins us together, to come back over the history that you were narrating earlier on, and whilst drawing up a common vision of what our future should look like. And all of the best wills, all of the talents will be useful to us first and foremost to rethink our major Mediterranean policies of stability, of co-development in terms of the promotion of common values, and then to show that the countries of the north have a lot to learn in many areas from the countries of the south. And the reverse is true also, so that we share creativity, so that innovation be placed at the center, and that our common history that is now illustrated within common creativity. And to illustrate this work, there will be 5 themes, and Renaud Muselier already mentioned them earlier on. Economy, competitivity, the environment, energy and raw materials, the youth, education and mobility, and finally culture. And for each of these themes, there will be, in the first months of 2019, a specific meeting in 5 participating countries. The discussions are still underway to distribute the work, but we're making good headway. And a final meeting will be taking place shortly before the meeting in Marseille in a 6th country to mobilize all of the countries around this major challenge. And what we're expecting from this summit is that it would allow us to launch new investment programs, to agree upon common public policies, or at least harmonized public policies, and together to carry to the regional international bodies the main federating actions, to launch Mediterranean appellations, and to resume bilateral actions that have worked very well, to share them with others, and to make them into common dynamics. They're very interesting ideas that have already germinated. I'm thinking of the creation of a Mediterranean school for training to the professions of the sea, the development of a school of second chance, the creation of a festival of Mediterranean antique theatre. And speaking of the university challenges that have been mentioned by the President of the region, I'm thinking of the elaboration of a Mediterranean label for sustainable development for companies. I'm thinking of initiatives that would allow us to reduce the harmful emissions of maritime transport. I'm thinking of the idea of implementing zero plastic, zero waste in the Mediterranean. There are a whole bundle of initiatives that we will have to group together and adapt and also put forward to make this summit a major event. And we hope that from all of the preparatory meetings, all of the Mediterranean meetings such as this one, we may bring out new ideas that will allow us to re-identify the Mediterranean. So in this project, we will have many partnerships, the European Union, the Union for the Mediterranean with the action of Nasser Kamel, the Anna Lindh Foundation, but also the World Bank, the European Investment Bank, the Organization of Cooperation and Economic Development, many stakeholders who will be supporting this movement and who want the outcome to be as important as a meeting of the G7 or G20, with, in addition, the partnership in the presence of civil society. This is what I came to say to you, to launch here in Marseille. And it was normal that I do this at the end of your second Forum of the Mediterranean of the Future, this summit of the two shores, which I hope will allow us to refine the thread of a reworked Mediterranean policy. And it's quite obvious that that could only take place in Marseille. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to all of you for having participated in the second act of the Mediterranean of the Future, dedicated to youth and innovation. As you've understood, this Mediterranean of the Future will be built all together. This is why I will ask you to immediately leave the room so that we have a big collective group photograph, so that we may have a photo and a souvenir of this action view seen from the sky. Thank you very much, and see you soon.